Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, we are extremely sorry for a little delay. It was due to some technical glitches. So now we are starting with the session. Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. A very warm good afternoon to everyone. This pandemic phase has taught us so many new things which we have never learned in our school. It has been a blessing in disguise. It has posed opportunities as well as challenges in education. On behalf of Army Institute of Education, Greater Noida, affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, Delhi, I, Pratibha Garg, Assistant Professor and Convener of the Faculty Development Program, welcome you all in this 1 week online FTP. As we all are experiencing and discussing in the previous sessions that during this pandemic period, the children are at home and the involvement of the parents in their child's education has increased. Keeping this in mind, today we will be having an interesting and interactive session on building parental involvement during COVID-19 crisis for holistic development of learners. And for taking the session, we have Dr. Pratibha A. Singh with us. A hearty welcome to you, ma'am, for gracing the session as a keynote speaker in this 1 week online faculty development program. To focus our thoughts on today's session, I request you all to kindly concentrate for a few seconds for Om chanting. Over to you, Manoj sir. Thank you, sir. The best teachers teach from the heart, not from the book. With this, I invite Dr. Tanya Gupta, Principal AIE, a true teacher by heart, to formally welcome the honorable guest of the day. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Pratibha Garg, Assistant Professor, Army Institute of Education, and the convener of this 1 week online faculty development program that is being organized by the Army Institute of Education, Greater Noida, on the theme Education and Resilience during COVID-19 and beyond. We are today on the verge of almost nearing end of this 1 week faculty development program. Today is day 6, and we have, over these 5 sessions that have been discussed and deliberated upon, tried to touch on various aspects of education and resilience during COVID-19 and beyond. And the sessions, my dear participants, you are aware, have been on education planning. It has been how to collaborate with the students so that they can learn and we can evolve together a pandemic pedagogy. We've also had a session on mental health and well-being of our children, of our parents, our staff members. And then yesterday, we tried to also speak on how we can foster inclusivity and maintain quality in education during these challenging times, as well as also we could really touch across our methodologies and our strategies of teaching to the very specially abled children. And yesterday we had a session on that. And today we are coming up with another very interesting session, which is building parental involvement during COVID-19 for holistic development of learners. So I'm sure you all, my worthy colleagues, the academicians, the teachers who have joined this faculty development program will agree that it is, half work done if we don't have parents enthusiastically involved. And sometimes during this period of COVID-19, they are at much more panic state than us. So how we can actually build this parental involvement during this time, and it becomes an extended responsibility for us as teachers, not only to work with our children at all stages, whether it is at school or it is at the college or the university level, but also involve the parents actively so that they understand, and they can help in the holistic development of our children. And so for today's session, I'm extremely privileged to introduce you to our keynote speaker, Dr. Pratibha A. Singh. And ma'am, welcome on board. On behalf of my management, my colleagues, and my student teachers, I extend you a warm welcome on board. And thank you so much for accepting the invite and taking this topic, for deliberation. Dr. Pratibha A. Singh, who's the Director and Consultant Clinical Psychologist at Kasturba Institute of Psychology and Behavioral Medicine, Greater Noida. She is associated with us for many reasons now for several years. She's also our counselor at the Institute, and she's a part of our very prominent committees, which are on grievance redressal or the guidance cell. So she is very actively involved and associated with AI, and also conducts a lot of programs, at our institute for training teachers. So, ma'am is, you'll be happy to know, she's an RCI registered clinical psychologist. And besides her, her kind of, we can say her passion for clinical psychology and her engagement into that field, she's also working on retraining and intervention of the slow learners and children with learning disabilities, as well as giving cognitive remediation and interventions to children with anxiety disorders, and many more, associated fields that she's actively engaged as a practitioner and as a researcher. So we are very happy and fortunate, ma'am, that you've joined us, and welcome on board once again, though virtually, and welcome to AI once again, ma'am. Thank you so much. And I'll now request Dr. Miss Pratibha Garg, the convener of the faculty development program, to formally introduce ma'am. Over to you, Pratibha Garg, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Dr. Pratibha A. Singh is such a wonderful psychologist. Ma'am had been practicing in Delhi and NCR region for the last about 16 years. She has done her MPhil in clinical psychology from Institute of Human Behavior and Elite Sciences, Delhi in 2006. Ma'am has obtained her undergraduate and postgraduate degrees from Delhi University and holds PhD from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. She was awarded a doctoral fellowship from NCERT Delhi for her doctoral work. She has also qualified UGC NET in 2002. Ma'am is a lifetime professional member of Indian Association of Clinical Psychologists, IACP. Her area of research and interests are retraining and intervention for slow learners, learning disability, neuropsychological assessments, cognitive remediation, and interventions for anxiety disorders, adjustment issues, and depression among adolescents and adults. Ma'am has various research presentations and publications to her credit. She is an eloquent motivational speaker and successfully conduct workshop and lectures on various psychological and mental health issues. Without taking much time, I request you, ma'am, to please proceed for the session. We all the participants are eagerly waiting to hear you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Pratibha ma'am. Am I audible with clarity? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Is my voice clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. Respected Tanya ma'am, Principal AIE, Pratibha Garg ma'am, convener of the FDP, senior faculty members of our institute who are involved in organizing this particular program, and the dignitaries and the teachers who have been joined this particular FDP. I'm so thankful that I'm here as a part of this particular program. I take it as a privilege. I would first like to apologize for the delay because there was some technical glitch because of which we could not really initiate timely. Now, hello, hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, right. Okay, so now I guess in the last few days, much talk and deliberation must have taken place about this particular topic of building resilience among children and how to involve parents, and of course, this is going to be the today's concern. But a number of such things must have been discussed in the last few days, and much deliberation must have taken. Hello,
Pratibha ma'am, there is
hello.
some connectivity problem at your end
You
because during when you are
some
talking,
disturbance?
sometimes, yeah, some disturbance is there. Sometimes it is going very
Yeah.
smooth,
Is it
sometimes
better
it
now?
is very
Is
fast.
it better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll continue without the earplugs. Maybe that was causing some problem.
Might be,
Um,
ma'am.
I was just saying there were, I'm sure there must have been much discussion and deliberation that must have taken place on the topic, the theme that we're trying to deal with during COVID-19, because this has been so unexpected in this kind of pandemic. And lockdown is something that has been much unpredictable, uncertain period that has come about and has led to many, many changes in our basic living. And of course, that has impacted the overall lifestyle as well as the education system equally, as it has affected our overall well-being and existence in the world. As I proceed further, I would probably like to share a PPT also that I tried to do regarding this particular topic. So just give me a moment, I'll just share my screen.
Dear participants, there is some technical problem at the end of the keynote speaker. We are just trying to sort it out. Please bear with us. Have some patience.
connection.
Pratibha ma'am, can you hear us?
Yeah. Maybe there was some technical issue. We lost the connection. I reconnected.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please
I'm
carry
just
on, ma'am.
sharing the PPT.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Are you able to see the PPT slides?
It will take a few seconds, ma'am. It will take a few seconds.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I think now it is running. You can
To me, it's
continue,
showing that
ma'am.
StreamYard is sharing your screen. Stop sharing. It seems it's already there. Is my screen, is the slide shown? No.
Ma'am, the
Is
whole
the slide
screen is
showing,
there.
ma'am?
Ma'am, the whole screen is there, not your
Just take
slide.
the time. Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Ma'am, it will be fine if you continue your presentation like with you and you
Is it
can,
coming? Is it showing?
yeah, it is, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it is there.
Is it showing the slide now?
Yes, ma'am, it is there.
Okay. Okay. Right. So now let's proceed with this. Uh, Now we all understand that COVID-19 had been a period of global crisis and unrest. There was so much happening all across the world, and we had not been even expecting that something like this would happen, and we are not used to a pandemic like this. That sweep through the entire globe, and then suddenly all of a sudden it happens, and we know that at the end of 2019 it began in a part of the world, and the whole of 2020 and maybe 2021 also we are going to deal with some amount of unpreparedness, unpredictability, because everything will take some time to settle through, and lot new has to happen that we will be trying to adjust to. As I said, there was a lot of unpreparedness and uncertainty. There was a lot of unpreparedness about, we were not prepared about the sudden loss of life of near and dear ones. There was threat to self-life also for a lot of people, loss of jobs and migration for many, economic hardships, and adapting to the new ways of life, new life that had to be adjusted to, adapted to all of a sudden. As a control measure, government was putting across lockdowns all over the world. There were many lockdowns happening in cities in India also, and we've lived through by now a large part of the pandemic in which we were actually dealing with the loss of the lives of loved ones, wherein the whole configuration of the family got disturbed. There was threat to life of self to many who got hospitalized, and a lot of them have actually developed conditions like panic and primarily kind of a post-traumatic stress disorder, because putting on ventilators and things like that has affected immensely a lot of people. We were also living through uncertainty all the time because we did not know who and how anyone would get affected. Despite all precautions, there was no guarantee, because precautions are only precautions and there are no guaranteed solutions to things. There was equal vulnerability to all. Maybe for the first time, people must have realized that we are all equal beyond caste, color, creed, even economic strata. Some of the most economically strong people have also been through this pandemic phase. They've also been through difficult situations, and they've also contracted the infection.
Pratibha ma'am, just excuse me. Ma'am, your voice
Yes.
is cracking a lot.
Cracking a lot.
Abhi,
Is it
it's
clear now,
okay.
ma'am? Is it better?
Abhi, it is okay, but When you start with the presentation, आप जब बोल रहे हैं, बिल्कुल आवाज हमें proper words नहीं आ
Right.
पा रहे. Your voice is cracking.
Okay,
Ma'am,
let me try to speak little slowly and let me.
क्योंकि
Hello.
अभी ठीक है बिल्कुल. अभी
अच्छा,
it is okay,
ठीक है,
ma'am.
मैं एक
हाँ,
बारी फिर से let's try, you know.
हाँ जी.
Let's try, right? All right.
Yes.
Okay. So the threat is so non-tangible. The threat had been so non-tangible in the sense that we could not see the virus. We could not see what is it that's affecting us. So there was more uncertainty. There was more threat perceived by every individual, and there was of course lack of control because there was no vaccine, there was no defined and definite drugs available. There were no certain measures to ensure control. You know, whatever we were taking or using were only precautionary measures. They were not certain measures, but certainly and definitely there would be no problem because of that. And there were certain extreme changes in life situations, like socialization pattern, economic condition, career. Many people had to go through difficult times of losing their jobs and socialization pattern and career. Everything got affected. And we know and we see that there was a threefold impact of COVID-19 pandemic. It had a physiological impact, at physiological level, those who were contracting the illness also developed a physiological effect of that.
Pratibha
And
ma'am.
apart from this, those voices cracking, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Too much
Voices
actually.
cracking? Okay,
Yes.
too much. Give me a moment. Just give me a moment. I'll do
Yes.
one thing.
Is my phone working?
Is my slide
किया now. We can see your name.
Yeah, I'm connecting with another source, and I
Yes,
don't think is there. Is my voice clear here?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Perfectly clear.
Voice will be clear. We may have a bit of a camera issue here. This camera is not working, but it doesn't matter anyway. We have to do the presentation part now. So I will
Yes,
be
ma'am.
presenting, and maybe towards the end I can join from another source just for a word in the end.
Right, ma'am.
Only one more minute.
Or you can continue without showing the presentation, ma'am. You can refer that from your screen and you can just continue with your talk, ma'am, if it is okay. If there is any problem in sharing.
Disconnected from here. I cannot actually use both the systems simultaneously because that will create disturbance. Uh, right. Just a moment. Let me see once more if this could be done in a
Because your voice is clear now, ma'am. We can continue with that.
Yeah, maybe this device is causing a bit of problem. Uh, is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we'll just begin from here. I was just talking about that, we have already lived through during pandemic with threats of life to self and loved ones, and it was a huge period of uncertainty in terms of, who will contract infection, how it can be contracted. There was a lot of certainty that adults and children both were equally getting affected by. And for the first time, we must have realized that we are all at par with each other. There is equal vulnerability to all, irrespective of caste, color, creed, gender, socioeconomic strata, because this infection reached each one, wherever anybody was, in whichever geographical region or whichever socioeconomic strata an individual was. The threat was non-tangible. It was a virus that could not be even seen with eyes, so you do not know even how to resist that. There was a lot of lack of control. There were only measures to control, but there was no certain way out that this is certainly going to keep us away. And there were certain extreme changes in life situations like socialization pattern, economic conditions, career. People had to lose jobs and all. And if you now look at it, there was a threefold impact of COVID-19 pandemic. There was a physiological impact, psychological impact, as well as a psychosocial impact also. Acute psychological reaction was there. We all know this: panic, anxiety, fear, anger outbursts were there. Suddenly, if somebody would discover about the infection, people had poor attention, concentration, and a lot of those things. There were more of lasting psychological impacts in terms of worry. It was constant worry, apprehension, low mood, anxieties. Work efficacy was getting reduced. There was reduced interest in work, recreation, irritability, and all this was being experienced both by adults as well as children. Now, if you look at the psychosocial impact, now this is more important for us to see, because there was reduced work-based socialization. Even for the sake of work, you want to buy a medicine, you won't get it very easily. Of course, the medical shops were on, but still, if you want to meet a doctor, the doctor wasn't available. If you want to buy something, the resources were not available. There was reduced recreational socialization, of course, for the sake of generally meeting people or children going out to play, that was completely restricted. People were restricted inside the confines of home. This all led to increased conflicts within family members too. There was increased use of alcohol, addictive substances by people at home. Reduced domestic help and support also brought upon, lots of both. This had both the sides. At one end, family got together, they all started working together for each other, realizing, contributing and realizing and appreciating each one's effort, while at the same time there was an added burden of looking up to the home affairs that were being looked upon by different people who are taken as help at home. And there was unavailability of social support figures or family members around when needed. Family members were staying somewhere else, sometimes parents are somewhere else, children were there somewhere else, or even grown up ones, or children studying in colleges, in the hostels and all. That there was a reduced social support system, there were apprehensions and all. People were stuck up at different places for long durations and could not meet. All this is, we are already through. And one very important change, psychosocial impact, that had come about as a result of this COVID-19 is work from home. We all know that this is something we've already come across through a long time. We've kind of adapted to it, and we need to understand that while most adults were unprepared, growing up children were more adaptive. We assume that it's taking a lot of toll on the children, but if we really look up to cases and incidents, we would see that adults were more crippled, because we are already having very fixed standard ways of living and leading our lives, which makes it very difficult for us to adapt to new life situations. While children, because they are in the growing up phases, they are still learning to adapt to new things in life, they were more adaptive. And children always adapt easily to situations and changes that their parents and families easily adapt to. Wherever there was more panic in the families about the infection, the pandemic, corona, COVID-19, children also had difficulties adjusting to the new lifestyle as well as the changes. Wherever, while if the parents and the other family members were trying to adapt easily to the new changes and the situations, in at those places, entire phenomena was very different. The families were gelling together, they were spending good time together, playing together, doing many things together they had not been able to catch up with for a long time. And by now we have all learned to adapt to the new normal. The COVID-19 pandemic has raised awareness for lots of inequities that existed before this global crisis in the society at large. We've realized for once, because this is the time when we have started relying a lot on the economic empowerment. Sorry, we have started to rely a lot on the technology, and for the sake of interacting with others, for the sake of mingling with others, for the sake of getting educated, learning, giving interviews also for jobs and work purposes. And a lot of study groups have been formed during this entire phase. And the regular schooling has also been continuing through online mode. So this has actually led to the very idea that there has been a lot of a lot of economic variability in the society that kind of makes certain kind of resources available to one section or two sections of the society and not readily available to many others, so that they are not in a ready position to interact. But nonetheless, for India and many other parts of the world, using technology has become handy, and most people are actually interacting with each other using phones, and mobile phones are there in every home. And schools have also moved mountains to ensure that students still receive education. Despite all that happening, despite so much happening across the world globally, um, schools, the schooling part, the learning of children, that has also been something that has never been ignored. Schools have made the best of their efforts to schools have made best of their efforts to kind of ensure that children do seek education and the learning process continues. Seeking education now has become challenging. We all understand that, because it is very challenging now, because it is no longer that one-to-one, face-to-face process going on. We are in a very different world where there is a lot happening through a distance mode. We are very distant from each other, and like this one is also, this kind of FDP is also happening through a distance mode, wherein we are interacting, learning things, sitting at home, and other people are there. The presenter is somewhere else, the people who are organizing are somewhere else, and the people who are learning or maybe sharing, understanding, are somewhere else, located somewhere else. And what is making it all happen is the technology and the technical support that is required to facilitate. And of course, as we understood that today, in today's case also, we've encountered a number of technology based glitches. So availability of a device to connect through distance mode is one thing that, if you want to continue schooling, we would see that in a country like India, there are a lot of homes and lots of villages where there may not be a handy available mobile phone or a laptop available to a child, or may not be net connection availability, which is convenient and conveniently available. So that is kind of something that restricts the imparting of education to children. And challenge for economically weaker sections, we understand, is more in this case. There are certain intractable barriers as we are talking of. Like some children may not have technological device, and there are disturbed connectivity may be there, and there is also paucity of space part. There may be, there may not be, there are three people to learn. One may be a teacher who needs to teach and sit in a separate independent room. There may be two children at home who need to learn, and they need to sit at a distance from each other. Or there may be some amount of geographical space between two, so that the classes do not disturb each other. One child's device's voice and noise should not disturb the other child's learning. So the devices have to be used at a distance from each other. The home may not provide that amount of adequate space. So that has also become a barrier in the entire process of learning when we are doing schooling from home, and there's disturbance and distractions in home environment for the purpose of study. Now, this is also very important, because we all know and understand that home is a place where we primarily we've learned to relax. Home is associated with the concept and understanding of relaxation, comfort. It is not a place where we work. So anyway, associating, reconditioning the mind that it's a place where I need to work. Then there are different kinds of distractions at home. Different kinds of distractions that may be, people talking behind, inside home, somebody watching television, some phone may be ringing, some visitors or guests may suddenly come up. Sometimes, there, or maybe some kind of interactions or conflicts and disputes happening between family members that may disturb and distract a child who's trying to learn from home. Also, very importantly, there is a constant absence of a facilitator, educator, or a mentor along with the child, sitting beside the child, who may help and facilitate the child in the process of learning and understanding different things. Right. So this is something, this has been a constant difficulty that people have been facing. But researchers have shown that in the last 2 decades, parents who are already educated, they have prioritized the quality of education and learning of their children quite a bit. And they have kind of almost quadrupled the investment they make on the education of their children. They're trying to invest much more than before, almost 3 to 4 times they're trying to invest on the education of their children so that they actually learn as much as possible. And less educated parents have also, by virtue of a lot of awareness that is being spread through government and other kinds of sectors, that the child should be educated, making education mandatory for girl child also, all that has been making ensuring greater access of education, availability of education to children of parents who are less educated or even illiterate also. So everyone has become sensitive to the entire idea of schooling as well as education. So school is very, very important. It is of prime significance in the lives of all individuals. Now, what matters most in a child's life is his or her family. Researchers have already shown a new research that was recently conducted in 2019 by University of Plymouth that has already shown that parental engagement has a positive effect on a child's academic attainment. Now, this study was done even prior to this entire pandemic situation had come up. They've already shown and proven that regardless of age or socioeconomic status, it is very important if the parents are getting involved with the child in their process of education or not, and what is their attitude towards the learning process of their child. Are they facilitating it? Are they seeing it as important, or they simply see it as something not so important, or they shrug it off and they just see it as a part of a routine that everyone's following, so my child will also follow. So that is something very, very important. But this has already been shown that it's very important. Parental involvement and their attitude towards the child's learning is very important. It has a positive effect and positive correlation with academic achievement and learning process of the child. We all know that the parents are kind of experts on their children. They know so much about their own child. They know as much as a parent knows about his or her own child, nobody else knows, right? We know that because this is so, because a parent gets to have a consistent association with the child. They know their child through and through. They have already accumulated a wealth of knowledge about their children as learners. So they know their limitations, they know their abilities, they know what they are capable of, what they are not capable of. Most parents are aware what are the strengths and limitations of their children. If they are a little bit involved with their child, they are already aware. Moreover, there is no bigger classroom than a family's living room, and there is no better way to personalize instruction than through a parent. The initial most learning takes place through interaction with the parents only. The initial acquisition of language comes through interaction with parents and family members. The initial motor skills develop like walking, running, jumping, everything. Although it's a development that unfolds itself spontaneously, it is not to be taught. Nobody has to be taught how to jump or how to run. But nonetheless, all that helps and is facilitated by the home environment and by the parents. The initial alphabet writing, the poem reciting, and everything begins at home. A lot of children we see, they've already knowing and learning tables at home because the parents are reciting and parents are encouraging them to say those tables and certain rhymes and certain stories that are being taught and told to children. They try to say those, repeat those because they've heard over a period of time from the members in the family that includes parents as well as grandparents as well as other siblings. Now, now, what matters most of course, now it's important that there has to be a collaborative effort between teachers and parents for the sake of learning. Teachers, on one hand, are experts on instruction. They know how the curriculum has to be taken up, how it has to be taught. But it is important that to understand that parents are already knowing a lot about their own child in terms of his or her limitations, and teachers are, on the other hand, they're experts on instruction. They know what their students need to make progress, and yet classroom setting makes it difficult to individually support every child. Parents and teachers have complementary skill sets, and for a common purpose, and to help kids learn and be successful. It is very powerful that if there can be a collaboration that can be built up between teachers and parents, it is going to be something of much more use, much more relevance, right? Uh, So if we can actually put in certain efforts to see that we bridge the gap between parents and teachers, there can be greater facilitation of the entire process of learning that had always been required. Prior to pandemic, if you look at the flip side, there was always minimal involvement on the part of parents in the learning process of children. And it has always been seen that parents who were showing greater involvement in the learning process of children, uh, those children have always been performing better than other children in the classroom. There has always been, greater interest on the part of the child, and a greater tendency to perform well whenever the parent was trying to show some interest in the child's education level. uh, there was a client who was telling me, she's a girl, and she was telling me that, because she belongs to a relatively rural background, she was quite upset with the very idea that my parents, particularly my mother, does not lay much emphasis on my studying and on my education. Whenever I'm studying, she may, end up asking me to get up and do some work first, household work first, and she sees me as someone who would be more involved in household work, and she always compares me with other children, other girls. See, the daughter of so and so does wo itna karti hai, ghar ka kaam wo itna karti hai, you do less, you contribute less, you should be working more on those things. And she says that, whenever I go to somebody else's place, some of my friends and all, they say that when uh, she sees that when they are studying, their parents discourage other people to enter inside the room, telling them they are studying, unko disturb mat karna, wo pad rahe hain, right? But when it happens with her, she says that my mother would rather say, beta lali jao pehle mere liye chai bana do, and then you come back, and after that you study. So the education, the process of learning, the process of studying, self-studying, that has been relegated and has been kept, less important for a girl child as compared to doing the household works. The greater involvement is there. But now, if we look at this particular new current scenario, which is kind of making it important, not just important, but it is also making it unavoidable, inevitable, and very important for all the parents to get involved in the learning process of children, then in that case, it has become kind of mandatory responsibility on the shoulders of the parents to be equal partners in the learning process of the children. All the responsibility that was earlier put on the shoulders of the teachers are now borne by the parents as well, necessitated by the situation and the circumstances that have been created by COVID-19, because all learning has been taken through virtual mode. And when things are on virtual mode, we need a facilitator to be beside, to be there around to ensure and check that the learning is actually taking place. Now, if we see that, with this kind of an approach happening, what is happening is that the teachers are assigning tasks to children to perform. And sometimes, in some homes, what is happening is that a child is being given a mobile phone, and the class is happening, and the mother may be working in the kitchen or somewhere else. Initially, this is what we saw was the phenomena. The child would attend the class very enthusiastically at the very beginning, on the laptops and mobile phones, and believing that, now they have a free hand on the gadgets and devices at home. So initially they were very happy. Then after a few days, the phenomena started changing. They were no longer interested in interacting with their friends, long lost friends they have not interacted with for a long time. Now they were very, very keen on kind of interacting with the gadgets, games. They started playing games in between the classes. They would open other sites, or they would open Google and search something, or they would start doing something else on their own that interests them better, like making a drawing or a painting, start playing something, doing something else. And the virtual learning was not interesting them much, because we've always been used to of more of one-to-one learning, one-to-one, when the other person is present and available in person with us. But now, with this new normal, the new changing scenario, which may continue for a longer period, we have to get used to of these newer ways where the teacher may be far away, distant away. The things may be happening from a distant mode, and we need to learn ways in which we can involve our children much more in the process of learning than as compared to that was recently seen, that children getting involved in misusing the devices that were made available to them to attend classes and learn. So in that case, it becomes very essential and important that the parent takes on the role of a mentor, or maybe parent takes on the role of a facilitator along with the child. Now, the crisis in this situation is that the parent may also be either working from home, or the parent may be working who is now required to go to the office. So, in that case, also a parent cannot sit conveniently or free-handedly with the child all throughout 4 classes, 5 classes happening. So, it becomes difficult. The parent cannot be available during day hours because they also have their own set of works to attend to. And there may be more than one child in a particular home. There may be 2 children, or sometimes there may be 3 children. The father may be required to go to the office if the mother is still at home, or the mother may be required to go to the office. Father may be working from home. But in that case also, on one hand, they have to attend to their own work, and on the other hand, they cannot be available at the same time to 2 children, 3 children at the same time, facilitating their work, facilitating their classes, facilitating their activities that are happening through the virtual mode. So it's overall a very challenging situation, a challenging scenario that requires new tangential ways, new tangential approaches that may be taken along with these regular virtual approaches that we are trying. One thing that I believe that is very essentially needed is that, of course, we cannot deny that the parent-teacher collaboration is daunting, but it is not a rocket science. We have to improve upon the parental capacity to support the academic success of the children. We need to see if parents and teachers can regularly interact with each other through different modes, through different mediums, so that there can be things that they can, in the process of learning, facilitate for the child as and when they can be available to sit with the child. A parent may devote some time in the evening, let's say 1 hour or 1.5 hours, maybe sometimes 2 hours, along with the child to facilitate his or her learning, but not during the daytime when the classes are actually happening. So this is, this is something becoming a little challenging. So one way that is being used is collaborating through Family Educator Learning Accelerator, that is FELA, wherein teachers and parents can join forces to help children reach learning goals in 5 to 10 weeks. Less than 5 weeks is considered to be a time when no real learning actually takes place. And more than 10 weeks is a period where it is seen as extending the immediacy and the necessity and the interest and the involvement on the part of the children to attend to a particular task. So if there is a concept to be taught, there has to be a goal or a target that can be set mutually by the parents and teachers, and at least for about 5 weeks. 5 weeks means more than a month, little more than a month, or maybe 6-7 weeks, depending upon the topic. That can be considered as a mutually agreed upon theme or a goal between parents and teachers, that this concept will be learned within this period. Now, parents can work with the child on that particular target. And there may be some mutually agreed upon activities. There may be some mutually agreed upon plays. There may be some mutually agreed upon models or projects, or maybe sometimes videos that can be prepared. That would kind of encourage that both parents as well as the teachers at their own independent levels, at their own independent ends, trying to work upon the same thing or trying to attain the same target with the child. Teachers may plan, parents may help the child execute those plans. Teachers may plan doing a model. Let's say, suppose we need to teach a concept of volcano to the children. How a volcano is formed, how what is lava, the molten rock material and all. So a model can be prepared on that. A small video explaining the entire concept and phenomena can be explained. Lots of those related concepts may be arranged to be discussed with the child, that the teacher can teach the child through virtual mode, and certain activities, projects may be given to the child, that the child may try to work while on the virtual mode with the teacher, and there may be certain tasks that may be given to be worked on with the parents. It is very, very important to understand that there is a high need for collaborative play with children these days, because children are lacking their playmates. They cannot really go out and play with friends. So it has become very, very important that children be given an opportunity to play at home, not just with their siblings, but with parents also being involved in the entire exercise of play. Playing organized games like Ludo, maybe chess, or maybe badminton, or maybe some other board games that we can sit and play with children, is something that is very highly needed and necessitated at this point in time. And some amount of learning, this is not only going to increase the collaborative understanding between the parent and the child, the recreation, the bond. It also kinds of tries to result in cognitive development of the children. The greater amount of development of intellect, the social intelligence of the children, attention sustenance. The impulsivity is also brought into control when we are playing board games that require taking turns with other children. Like suppose, if 4 children are playing a particular game, then you have to wait. A particular child has to wait till his or her turn comes. So in that process of waiting, he or she is actually learning patience. Hyperactivity is brought into control. Patience is something that's going to develop in the entire process. And something that's more important is that children learn collaborating with other people, playing in consonance with other people, doing things and activities in consonance with other people. This also increases their general social understanding of phenomena. Not just this, they also learn that while they're playing, that it's not you should not give up till the end. Perseverance, which is very important, you should continue till the end. You should not give up the game in between, as most children have this tendency. When they're about to lose, they would give up. So playing games is also something very highly necessitated to develop a healthy personality among children as adults, as people who are more patient, people who are having high level of perseverance, people who are having high level of social understanding, are able to manage and resolve conflicts when it happens between two other people in the team, or maybe with them. They are able to manage conflicts also in a better way. This is when we learn at home how to collaborate, how to work on different concepts and subjects. That is learned in a better way. That is one thing. Also, what we see is that if a small child is there who's not knowing numbers very well, if you play snake and ladder with them, they not only understand the concept of number, the progression of numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, visuospatial orientation also comes to them when they play these games. Where you move, from where you climb up, from where you climb, the snake bites and you climb down, from which number to which number you will come, where you will be dropped, from which number to which number you are rising high, how much you have risen high. a lot of these concepts also are developed. All these concepts develop in a child when he or she is playing these simple games. So depending upon the level of the child, the grade of the child, the concepts to be taught to the child, number of different plays, particularly indoor games, board games can be selected that helps and facilitate the entire learning process that can be done between the parents and the children. Collaborative projects. Now, collaborative projects, as I just discussed, is very important. There can be a lot of things that can be made together on different subjects, different notions. Now, this has already been there. The projects were assigned by teachers and children were doing them at home. That was already there. But earlier on, since the child was going to the school on a regular basis, and there was more direct supervision that they were getting from the teacher. Now, a lot of it that can be gained from the parents. Parents can collaborate with the child. Parents can discuss and plan what the project can be all about, sometimes depending upon the availability of their time and their things. But there has to be a more greater flexibility in terms of time with regard to how things are to be done, what exactly is to be done, and in what time duration it can be done and completed. So that is another very important aspect we need to take into consideration when we are involving parents in the process of learning. Now, collaborative recital videos. Now, reciting things. Small children can be taught to give their introductions. Children can be taught to teach a particular concept. My child was given a very interesting concept by his teacher. She taught subtraction with borrow method. And then she said that please make a video of you teaching subtraction with borrow method. Each child was supposed to make a video wherein the child, like a teacher, teaches subtraction, assuming that there are other children they are supposed to teach, and they were teaching subtraction with borrow method to other children. Now, this was an interesting collaborative approach that was being, this was an interesting activity or exercise that was being given to by the teacher, and the video had to be uploaded. So each child attempted to not only understand the concept, but when you try to explain it to the other individual, and you have to decode it, it becomes much more clear to the individual himself or herself who's doing it. And since it had to be a video that had to be made, the overall activity became very interesting for the child. So for the sake of doing a video, he would understand the concept, try to explain it, learn how to explain it, and would do it in a video form. And that video can be eventually uploaded for the teacher's feedback or feedback by other students in the class. Likewise, there can be other kinds of recitations of stories, storytelling by children. There can be reciting videos of poems, poetries, or there can be some kind of narratives of certain kinds of concepts that the child has learned. That is also something very interesting that can be taken upon. In collaborative activities, a child may be given or assigned by the teacher to discover new facts. New facts, let's say, about the universe, if they are doing universe, about solar system, if they're doing solar system, any new concept about numbers, metric measures, or any new concept that they're learning, that maybe the child may be asked to discover some new interesting facts or concepts about that. Now, the child would be sitting with the parents, discussing this concept as and when at ease at home, and maybe check on the Google for some new facts, or parents may tell them some new interesting facts about a number of things to the child, and then the child may eventually share these concepts in the class when they are on the virtual mode. So it's a collaborative activity that the teacher has assigned and the parent and child are doing because the teacher has asked the child to share a new fact. So this is how we are trying to involve. We can kind of collaborate, involve the role of parents in the learning process of children. when all this is happening, there has to be some quarterly or fortnight meetings and review meetings between teachers and parents. When parents and teachers can both interact with each other in a collaborative manner, discuss and plan out a particular subject or a topic wherein different kinds of learnings can take place and can happen, then that kind of collaborative approach is something which is the need of the hour, because we see that this distance learning will continue for children, and many parents are bothered that nothing is happening, everything is probably at bay, or because we are at distance, so not much learning can take place, or there is not much learning that is happening these days. So, in order to address all this, it has to be something like this also. Apart from that, drawing, painting, making models with clay, can be many different activities, or kind of project based activities or play based activities that can be performed by a child while at home, which all can be theme based. A child may be taught to play with the Lego, and the child may be asked to make a particular with Lego. The child may be asked to make a um, particular um, particular object of identity, a particular famous monument, try to make a Taj Mahal with this Lego, or maybe try to make Burj Khalifa. Now then you talk about Burj Khalifa, what is it and how is it done, so parents are encouraging children to do things by showing them pictures, photos of concepts. The teachers may be sharing the similar kinds of concepts and ideas. It's all about expanding the mental horizons. The learning has to be about expansion of broadening the mental horizons and understanding of concepts by children, so that every day new learning can take place, every day new concepts can be built up, and new ideas can be formed. uh, Now, with regard to remote learning, government has also been trying to develop guidelines, and in certain parts of the world, certain countries have selectively opened up schools, like in Canada and few other parts of the world. What they are doing is that they are doing, for maybe 1.5 month, or maybe 2.5 months, they are opening the cycle, and they're keeping the option for the parents if they want face to face in person classes, or they want virtual classes. Suppose if parents have kind of selected for virtual classes, right? The child will be sitting at home. They may open up a few courses for this child that may be learned through virtual mode, and the other group may be doing it through the in face to face in person mode. Now, those children who are going to the school in learning, trying to learn in person mode, they may be going to the school only on alternate days, or maybe sometimes 5 days. So during those 5 days, since already the entire class is not going to the school, only half of the children will be going to the school, because half may have opted for virtual mode. So those half set of children who may be going, they may be, each group, the virtual group as well as the actual group, both would select uh, uh, some 4 random courses that they would be taking. So one particular day, then when they visit the school, only 2 teachers will attend the children for, let's say, for 4 hours, and 2 hours of long classes will be taken by each teacher. Long classes for teaching each course, for taking certain topics from each course, and that is how they go about it. So that that may be goal oriented, that may be some defined amount of syllabus that has to be completed. So some children may be taking, but every 2.5 months later, they would review the achievement, and then they would kind of again give you an option for your child. So some parents again flip, some parents may opt for face to face in person mode, and some may go in for virtual mode. So that kind of an option and flipping through can be made available, because that eventually makes certain parents who are a little willing to send their children to school by now through required precautions. Some children can reach up to the classroom, particularly for the senior classes, wherein more one-to-one and direct learning and interaction is required and necessitated. So that is also something very important, particularly for classes of seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, So in between, children can opt for courses that they can go and attend in person at least 3 days or 4 days in a week, wherein not many teachers would end up. The classroom would not be full of some 40 students. It would be maybe nothing more than 20. One child can sit on one table, and one teacher or maximum two teachers would end up coming to the class, and then they would kind of facilitate learning. So this can be yet another approach that is being taken up by many different countries and some parts of the world which are trying to open up the lockdown situations. If the condition is not that bad, it's improving. But nonetheless, we all know that we are moving towards the period when we have kind of discovered vaccines, although the process of completely, having the drug trials being completed for the vaccine and eventually it gets launched into the market, the entire process may take time. And learning through virtual mode and making greater use of technology in the process of learning may take a little more time. That may continue longer, or that may become a way of life for us. It may not completely be undone now, because this is an important integral part of a life. And if this continues, learning, bridging this gap between parents and teacher when it comes to educating children, because nonetheless parent remains the most important part and the most important teacher in a child's life. Nothing can be done without the role of a parent in teaching whatever the child needs to learn, what a child needs to do. So, having said that, I would say that with all the pain and tears, however, it is a joy to live, for there is a will behind each life, and God has created everything on purpose. This is by Sri Aurobindo in Savitri. So, I end up with this, and
Thank you, ma'am. Permission, we can take some questions now.
Sure, ma'am, sure.
Right, ma'am. Right, ma'am. The first question is by Miss Madhuri Mohan. If children are
Yeah.
passive learners and parents are not acting as facilitator, then how can we overcome this problem, or how can we motivate these students?
Okay, this is a regular problem that we see these days. As I was also mentioning, initially children were very enthusiastic and motivated. Firstly, about being given this independent to use the device and the gadget at their own, free hand. That was interesting, and also they were also getting an opportunity to interact with their class friends and seeing them on a virtual mode platform. So that was very interesting for them. But eventually, children got very passive about the entire process of learning through virtual mode, getting pissed off. And grown up children have often been reported to open other links, other sites, playing games while the classes are going on. That has become a constant problem. The largely the important role stays is that the parent has to somehow make time to be around the child when the classes are going on. There has to be a mentor, there has to be someone who takes on the role of a supervisor, or a supervision can be taken upon by some member in the family who can be around when the child is taking the classes. Firstly, to ensure that the child is on online mode, the child is attending to the classes. That is one aspect that's very, very important. Firstly, to ensure that the child is attending. Secondly, when the teacher is talking, we often see what is happening is that children will not even take up a notebook or a pencil when the class is going on. A fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade child, math class is going on, and they're just sitting and listening to it as if some kind of, pravachan sunte hain na, jaise bacche us tarah se classes attend kar rahe hain aajkal. So that is something that has to be taken care of only by the parents. Teachers can try to, ask children. Teachers can ask or try to ensure, please show me your notebook, how much you have done, please show how much you've completed. And this is, many teachers have been trying to do that. But nonetheless, parents have a very important role, firstly, to ensure that the child is attending the class and not engaged in something else. Secondly, ensuring that the child is equipped with the required things. The book is there beside the child, the notebook is there, the pencil, eraser, whatever is required. The children are sitting on with all the stuff available to them so that they can kind of be really attending the class and they can actually be involved without getting distracted. Thirdly, avoid distractions in the environment as far as possible. The next most important thing is that when teacher is talking about a particular concept, the mother or the father who may just pass through or just, roam about and just sit there for some 5 minutes and just check on with the child to what extent he's doing, or maybe share some interesting fact about them, or just throw an interesting question to the child about something that the teacher is talking about right now, so that the child suddenly gets engaged and interested in, okay, now the answer is coming. Then listen to your teacher. She's telling you the answer. Please listen to what she's saying. So this kind of a motivation pattern on the regular basis, when the phenomena is actually taking place, when the teacher is actually teaching on a virtual mode, has to be taken care of, and that has to be done by the parents. So it's not that you always sit with the child whole day long telling him, please study, please study, please study. That will work. That will not work. And the other possible thing that can be done is that we can throw interesting questions about the concepts that are being covered these days to the child later on when the class is over, so that the child finds it something very interesting. Okay, this is being taught by my teacher also in the class, so maybe this is something I can, tomorrow I will try to listen to that. So if a child is basically interested and basically intelligent, he or she will spontaneously find ways of being alert in the class next time, because this seems to be something interesting. My parent was asking me about this, or my friend was talking to me about this, my sibling was talking to me about this, or maybe we can show some of those related things as videos, videos on Google, or sometimes related information that has been shown on television. We may talk to the child about that, and then when the teacher is also talking, the child gets interested. So just coaxing the child all the time will not work. Finding more tangential ways, we may not directly be telling, but little indirectly we turn the child towards the theme and the subject. Right. Okay, so there is another question by Anurita Kaul.
Yes,
she
ma'am.
says, how can we incorporate collaborative learning in our teaching learning with different strategies, keeping in mind the varied needs of children as well as individual differences? In our teaching learning with different strategies, keeping in mind the varied needs of children, special as well as individual differences. Now, with regard to this, I'm also of personal opinion that the hours of the overall curriculum that was available to children for regular teaching should be relatively reduced. The total number of hours the child is expected to devote, let's say again the same 6 classes happening on virtual mode is not really going to work, because that amount of attention to be sustained on virtual mode for a child of 10, 12 or 11 years, 12 years, 13 years is probably not very workable. That's not very feasible. So what can be done is we can reduce those hours and we can provide activities, assignments, that can be more with flexi timings. The parents can do these activities with the child, but we are not putting in very rigid deadlines. As you said, 5 weeks to 10 weeks. There may be some concept to be taught to the child. The teacher may be covering it in her own different ways. Different ways means one, I'm talking about that through a talk. Secondly, I'm talking about that through a presentation. Thirdly, I'm talking about the same concept through a particular drawing that I ask the child to do. Some teachers are not really practicing activities because they are on the virtual mode. So that is also something I personally feel should not be discouraged. Teachers should not feel discouraged. They should encourage the activities even on virtual mode. They can sit patiently and let the children do certain, draw something. Let's say the diagram of the universe, the solar system. Let children draw, and the teacher can wait. She can keep on giving instructions as facilitators in between, and keep it more. Flexi timing should be made available, because different children have different needs, different households have different needs, different environment, and different parents have different level of engagements at home and elsewhere also. So if I have given a homework and expect that it should be done by tomorrow by every child, or maybe in another 2 days by every child, that may not work. That may not work, but I need to give a little span of time so that every home can work out their own unique tailor made style of working with the child. But that can be encouraged, that collaboratively learning should take place, but little more in a flexible manner. Does that answer her question? I think different strategies, keeping in mind the varied needs of children. Yeah. So different children have different needs, different mindsets, different ways of working. So we can opt for different timings. We can probably give the flexibility, and teachers can share more videos, more pictorial presentations of the concepts that the to the parents, that parents can watch with the child, or can be given to the child, so that the child can watch them at their own appropriate interest time, or when they want to do it. The child may have friends they want to play now at 2 o'clock, and he's or she's not interested in watching that video now, but yes, after maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, he or she may be interested. So if the thing is available to the parent at WhatsApp or some other group, then that can be watched later also by the child, and the task may be completed later on also. Certain kinds of links may be shared by the teachers to the children, that may involve certain quizzes or certain kinds of exercises that the child may complete later on also, at their own sweet time, whenever they feel like sitting with the task, so they can be able to do it. Not that always it has to be at a specific stipulated time. A teacher may act as a facilitator, do it in half an hour with children during the class stipulated time, and then share the link or the video or other things that children can, and the parents and children can collaborate at their own feasible time, or maybe watch it a number of times if they are interested of taking time to learn that. Now, Thandra Suresh has put up a question. Most of the students are copying in online test during this pandemic online classes. Copying in online test during this pandemic online classes. How can we identify the children, and what are the controlling measures to overcome mass copy? Right. This is more of a technical person is the best person who would be able to answer something like this. But yes, I think many schools are exercising this provision of the teachers keeping the invigilation duties on when the teachers are there monitoring, and students are simultaneously writing the answers and all. So that is there. A part of the paper, I think the teachers may also be maintaining, that can be kept as objective, and some amount of subjective part of the paper can be kept short. Few questions may be there, so that the tendency to catch up with the time, not very, the time should be kept like that, so that not that the children get time to copy also, and not that that flexibility is there, that they are that stringent timing should not be there, and that flexible, it should be very flexible also, that they get adequate time to copy and ask and things like that. So that should be a little more constructed in a way that children get less time, and the answer questions should be a little tricky, so that not so direct, if that can be possibly be done with children of more higher grown-up classes. But I think some good schools are already doing some of that, and many teachers are putting in a lot of hard work these days to work in this way. And more of, I think this question can be answered by someone who is more from the technical field, and they know it how to control and overcome mass copying and all.
Ma'am, I'll like to, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, sure.
Can I add to
Sure,
this,
sure,
because yeah.
बिल्कुल.
तो एक्चुअली मुझे ये चीज खुद लगती है कि टीचर्स आर, बिकॉज दे आर ट्रांजैक्टर्स ऑफ, it's more like imposed on them. Suddenly they get to know they have to teach in a pandemic time, then they have to assess also, then they have to maintain all transparency. Everything is expected from us.
Right,
Now,
right.
as you very rightly say, it is a technical setup and maybe a little vision of the people who are running the institution, the
Right.
management, which has to give support to the teachers here. Where, so if you, for instance, you want to get away from something, from how do you prevent children from cheating? So there are digi-proctored platforms and softwares in which one has to invest as an educational institution, at least to keep the teachers away from this stress to see that children are not copying. So that support is something which has to be given. I feel it's purely a management decision. It is not in the hands of the teacher. So teachers do get helpless. Secondly, I feel there are good options in which we as teachers, but then you cannot keep waiting for things to happen. You have to evolve. So, like you said, creating some kind of tests which are time bound, which gives a little less scope for them to look for answers here and there. And also for the higher classes, we know that we have an alternative like an open book examination where the questions are not
Right.
straightforward, but, and I personally believe there's no harm if the textbooks are seen, because even looking up the right content and putting it in the right perspective is an art. I think it also
Right.
teaches children how to look for good answers and then how to rewrite them. So uh, one can reduce on the time duration. Say if you're doing an open book, the questions are a little twisted and little application based, and then let them look for it and then write it in a stipulated period of time, because we at our institute for over this 1 year, we all as teachers have evolved multiple strategies. We are conducting open book examination. Initially it also came as a shock to us, and we also had these doubts in our mind. How are we going to authenticate that they have not copied? I feel, what is the harm? Even if they're looking into a textbook and writing, what is the harm in it? I mean, we have to have a change in our mindset कि वही 3 घंटे का पेपर पेंसिल टेस्ट है और मेरे 10 क्वेश्चंस पे बच्चे वैसे ही आंसर करें. So somewhere the entire the evaluation process needs a lot of relook and a lot of reform. And secondly, I feel there needs to be a lot of support from the management to provide these things to the teachers. I mean, just leaving them with a platform ki padhao bhi aap or assess bhi aap karo, that is, I think, expecting too much out of teachers. That's my view. And thirdly, I feel uh, for the younger children, uh, it's not necessary to test them always on 10 questions of mathematics or 10 questions of composing a sentence, or doing a fill in the blank. It can always be done through a lot of playway. So there are alternative ways of assessing them, and we can do it as teachers. But yes, for proper examinations, I feel that the solution is it lies in the hands of the higher management of educational institutions, whether it is a university or it's a college or even at school. The management has to be ready. And now with this second wave of pandemic now coming in, as we are hearing it in the UK, and we are taking all measures now even in our country. So we don't know till when this COVID-19 is going to last. So perhaps the new way of teaching, learning and assessment is only online. तो इसके लिए शुरुआत में तो 5-6 महीने हमने हिट एंड ट्रायल एंड एरर कर लिया, बट नाउ इट्स हाई टाइम वी नीड टू बी प्रिपेयर्ड. So that's what I feel, Dr. Pratibha. I hope you'll agree with what I'm saying.
Sure, ma'am. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was also thinking of this open textbook kind of examination system. This is what is being practiced for higher education level in many countries. That hardly matters. It's your understanding of the concept, particularly when we are dealing with college level students. Availability of book is never going to ensure your understanding that you are able to provide in those stipulated 2.5 or 3 hours. But for smaller, younger children also, like those who are in higher classes, these days, if you have that provision of a child answering the paper on a sheet and then making a PDF and sending it to the teacher, then more of diagram based questions may be given, more of flowchart based, diagram based. Anyway, the child has to draw the concept. The child will not have much time to read through, then draw the diagram, or maybe something like that. Every diagram is not given in the book. There may be, express the diagrammatic representation of a particular concept, or make a flow chart of that, or make a model of that. So the children can be primed beforehand that you need to present it like that, but the concept has to be there in your mind. If you start reading it then and there, that you can't do. You just have to try making a pictorial representation of the concept. And there may be also questions as saying, give 3 points or 4 points. I'm sure that is already there, but something like this, crisp 3 points, crisp 4 points. The child can't go on reading or copying 1 point, 2 point, and other sites and all.
To add, like I'm just going through the comments that are being posted by teachers. Like there's one by Madhuri Mohanji, who is saying, that ma'am, they are not taking any content from the book. See, this is because teachers are the ones who are actually, at the forefront. So this is something which I agree. Like Madhuri ji, she's saying that children are not taking down points from the book, but they are making parallel WhatsApp groups for cheating. So how do you rectify the situation? And then there is one very genuine problem that has been put up by Anjani Reddy ji, who says that, ma'am, there are even many students who don't attend the tests. We keep calling them and we keep requesting them, test kar lo, test kar lo. So these are ground realities. And then likewise, we have Anu Gupta, who is saying that, in my opinion, in this time, our objective should be to guide and add knowledge, and not only to keep evaluating and evaluating all the time. So these are certainly views which we have to take in mind. And at the end of the day, children are not merely test scores. That is something I personally feel.
Exactly. It is all about learning. So anyway, if a child has not read a concept beforehand, if a child has not learned something beforehand, even if he or she is doing at the time of writing a test or an assignment, anyway, the concept is learned. So many children, they may not remember a particular concept or spelling because they have not studied it ever before. But at the time of examination, when the very question is there, when they read it, study it there and then you always remember it. So that is also very important, particularly. But I would say that this is all okay for school going children who are still in the process of learning. But when it comes to college based, or more children taking college students taking competitive exams, I think more stringent measures should be taken. The questions should be more analytical. Even if they use a book, they shouldn't be able to, the time would be very less to go through some odd 50 pages and then just extract the gist to write an answer. That is also very much there. And as ma'am was saying, for online copying and all, of course, the management has to take the responsibility of hiring or purchasing certain kinds of softwares that would keep a check on that. That is there. On online invigilation that teachers do also, I think that matters, because teachers are very strict and stringent these days. As somebody was telling me, a parent was telling me, teachers do not let children even raise their head up, and they will not allow them. They would say, keep your eyes gaze fixed on the paper that you're writing. So I think that is all essential to an extent. Otherwise, it will only inculcate a culture of copying and just getting away with something just like that, not doing, not working hard. Some amount of strictness is very essential in order to maintain and retain a discipline with regard to learning process. We should get very easy and very unfair also, because somebody who's capable should be getting the due worth and appreciation for what he or she knows and does. But for school going children, smaller children, little bit of parent telling, little bit of they referring to textbook won't make much of a harm. That will only lead to learning. At the end of learning, something they've learned in the practice.
Agree, ma'am. And I hope you will, if you can just allow me, because you are the speaker for the day. My colleagues are also on board, if in case anyone wants to add something.
Sure.
your
Right.
views. I mean, anyone like we have Kriti ma'am and Dr. Babita is there on board and Dr. Sarita ma'am is also there. So, in any questions, even ma'am, if you feel like adding on the whole idea is to make it interactive. Ma'am, any views you would like to share? Dr. Babita, are you able to unmute, ma'am? Okay, I think some issues. Okay. Meanwhile, Pratibha ma'am, maybe you can take another question, ma'am.
Another question. This is by Madhuri Mohan. She's saying that students are blaming net connection. They're not even ready to respond or switch on video. This scenario, we are helpless, ma'am. Give suggestions for the same. Yes, of course. This is what is happening. Students have a tendency to blame on the net connection when it's not, when they are not willing to, and they will simply say, my net was not working. This is a regular scenario. But, you know, children are generally skeptical and scared of questions being asked to them, and they are required to answer. So that is something that is something that makes them skeptical. And sometimes what happens is that some teachers have a tendency, the moment a child logs in, and particularly if a child is infrequent and more absent, the teacher has a greater tendency to immediately pose a question on that child the moment he or she logs in and all. That is something that shoos the child away. He or she is already skeptical and maybe is not knowing the answer, and he or she will know that whenever I will log in, the teacher will be asking me questions. Secondly, since it's a virtual mode, I think we can be little more flexible with children in terms of little more attendance related flexibility should be given. I think in my own personal experience as a parent, I would say that the teachers were more relaxed when children were on regular basis going to school. And if they would sometimes not go, the teachers won't be that restless as these days. The moment a child is not logged in, or today, even if there's one day absenteeism, the teacher would call and you have to give an explanation, and then there would be talk why absenteeism, why the child got absent and all. So there is little more pressure these days on virtual mode about attendance issue and all. But I think since it's a virtual medium, children also sometimes get bored or sometimes do not feel like attending and all. Although agreed, the idea the child is very much at home and can manage, but sometimes they don't feel like attending and all. That flexibility should be there. Or sometimes children attend 3 classes in a day and not all 4 or 5. Sometimes that is also there. So I think that flexibility should be allowed a little bit. And those who are still managing, a child may be little more absent than the others, but if the child is attending the class, that should be more welcomed by the teacher, rather than pointing out immediately, why were you absent yesterday, why were you absent. Sometimes children get so skeptical about this very idea that I would be asked why I'm not attending, so they would not go back the next day. Or the teacher would be asking about the assignment I've not done, so I would not go. That regular behavior on the part of the child to avoid, if the work is not done or if he or she is late. Sometimes some teacher would scold also, why are you logging in late? So the child would say, if I'm already 10 minutes late, I will not log in. So a lot of these things are there. Every child is different. Some are more punctual, some are less, some are more disciplined, some are less, some are more playful. So but little flexibility if we can grant, that would put children more at ease and more in a comfortable zone with regard to going and attending classes. I'm sure, I'm not trying to say that it has to be too flexible, but yes, little more flexibility, little more welcoming gesture, appreciation is something that would at least not put the child on this thing. And some children who are very reluctant, are just not coming for days together, not talking to the parent, discussing it with the parent, encouraging the child as much as possible, particularly asking the child to join when there is some interesting activities done. The child may continue to show not so good attendance, but as long as when there are important activities, important things happening, the child may be asked to join, even if he is not performing. For smaller children at least, they should be required and asked by the parent, today we'll be doing this activity, ask the child to join, just ensure that the child joins. joins and attends, so slowly interest builds up. So in many cases, that little flexibility, little more welcoming gesture, inviting the child in particular when some interesting activities are being done so that they find the classes to be more interesting and playful, would be a good idea. So that is something that can be tried upon. And too much of a stringent attitude in a regular, like it used to be in a regular classroom, may not work on a virtual mode. Although I understand most teachers are very flexible, they are supportive and understanding these days, but still. uh, Now there's another question by Thandra Suresh. She's saying that gadget learning leads to addiction of online games. What is your opinion on this? Yes, very true. Gadget learning, but it's not just the gadget learning part. It is also the COVID and the pandemic and the lockdown, which is leading to more of use of or addiction of online games. Because the child is not allowed to go out to the park, or the child doesn't have that free hand to go out and play. The child can't play football as earlier, cricket as earlier. He's most of the time home. What else the child would do? We have not really encouraged the culture of playing board games inside homes, name, place, animal, thing, hide and seek, carom board. All these games are dying eventually, as I see that children are not using and not playing these games. Even parents during our times used to involve themselves with us and play these games with us, but the parents are also too busy not investing their times playing with their children some of these kinds of games. And parents instead are always seen on phone, checking their messages on Facebook, social media, and all. So the learning takes place through vicarious mode with children. They see that this is something is to be done whenever you are free for the purpose of entertainment and recreation. Also, I see there is too much panic in the parents with regard to online games also. I would say that, be little easy, chill. There is nothing like that. You have to be very, very skeptical about, because a lot of this free fire and everything that children play is actually, is like chor police. They are actually playing chor police on a virtual mode. वो उसमें soldiers हैं, सब soldiers बने हैं. They are teams. एक another team of soldiers is there. They are one set of soldiers. And since it's a virtual medium, तो उनको रास्ते में कुछ भी और मिल जाते हैं, gadgets and all that they keep on using to protect themselves or attack the enemy. This is all that they're doing and playing through all these, most of these games. Right? So anyway, it is involving their mind as long as the child is not getting, if he or she is a grown-up child, little grown-up, I would say if he or she is a teenager, it is better to be on some of these games rather than going in for cigarette smoking or alcohol use or some other substance or some other kind of filthy stuff online. It is better to play games. Right? Anyway, it's a game. Anyway, it's a mental stimulation. Anyway, it's involving improvement of psychomotor coordination, speed, mental speed. A lot of these mental functions are also involved in this. So it's not that we have to be very skeptical. And I have seen that if a child starts playing, the moment a child starts playing a game on the online mode, within 20 minutes, I see mothers getting extremely restless. Now put it down, put it down. Now, can we actually say a child who's just started playing chor police 15-20 minutes mein band kar do? He's just started playing. He's just started enjoying himself. 1 घंटा तो खेलेगा, 1-1.5 घंटा वो खेलेगा तो उसको सेटिएटी हो जाएगा, फिर वो बच्चा अपने आप रख देता है. If you keep on cribbing and be after the child, रखो, that is something not going to work. The brain needs its own satisfaction till we, eventually reach up to an idea कि ठीक है आप इसको बंद कर देंगे. Now we are over with it. तो वो एक satisfaction आने के बाद बच्चे छोड़ते हैं. Sometimes we can arrange for different things, like when the child starts playing, maybe after 1 hour time target, we set the target for the child कि 1 घंटे बाद आप रख दोगे. Realistic target, be realistic. Don't say that you'll play for 15 minutes. Sometimes I see parents saying that. That doesn't mean anything, Child will invariably not leave after 15 minutes और फिर वो 2 घंटा खेलेगा, 3 घंटा भी खेलेगा, right? So have realistic targets, let's say one hour. Or prepare something interesting for the child out at the end of 1 hour, then call the child, okay, I have prepared a burger for you or something, Maggie for you, something, just leave, put your game at close, now come and have your snack. So give something optional which is interesting when you are asking a child to put off the games and all, so that the child has its own stipulated time of doing everything. Try to set, divide the time of your child like an orange. Different slots for every activity. A lot of small percent of time for each thing you try to assign to. Everything will have its own time. Let the child be encouraged to play sport also in the lawn, maybe some sport in the balcony, whatever. Do some exercise also, do some yoga also, attend classes also, play some online virtual games also. Let everything be done and taken at ease. There shouldn't be any panic around any activity that the child is doing, as long as it's not immediately harming the child too much. More resistance will lead to more addiction. Next question is Arvinder Kaur, by Arvinder Kaur. She's saying that what to do when both parents are working and not available, but the child is equipped with proper material. Parents are not available for the given activity when they are required. Yes, absolutely. I really understand that this is a major issue. I've already tried to address this during the presentation, that many a times the parents cannot be available around the child when the classes are going on. That's the reason I would suggest that maybe the curriculum timing can be reduced, because there is no one to supervise or mentor the child. So child is not really getting much benefited by that exercise that's happening on a virtual mode. Rather, videos can be shared on that is teaching the concept, or maybe activities can be given that the child and parent can collaboratively perform and do at their own feasible time, at their own convenient time, so that the learning invariably takes place. Children are sitting for hours together, five hours in front of a particular laptop or a mobile or something, and not really learning much, not really doing much, because it's too much of the spans of time is too long. 5 hours or 6 hours in front of a mobile or desktop is too long a time. Child is really not learning much through virtual mode. Sitting long hours, they will learn better if the time devoted is less. 3 hours, 4 hours, they will learn better. And the time that they've saved, they can play, they can take rest, they can do something else. And whatever time that those 2 hours, they can sometime during the day when the parents are available, they will sit with the parent and do the similar activities, exercises, learning, watch videos that the teacher would have instead taught in the class. They can watch together as a video when the parent is present, and then parent can simultaneously facilitate the understanding of the concept when they are also free sitting beside the child. So I personally think that is the need that needs to be looked into. Avi Sharma is there. He's asking how to tackle increasing screen time addiction. Virtual world has taken over the reality. Now, if you're talking about screen time addiction for children or for all, virtual world has taken over the reality. Yes, certainly I would share sometime. I've written an article about this, how virtual world is taking over the reality for all, for adults. As parents, we have little time for children, because whatever little time we are left with spending to connect with people, virtual people on the virtual mode, on the virtual medium, people whom we have very less to do with, and the people who really mean to us and have more relevance in our lives, we have left with no time for them. So that actually is something that requires discipline, self-discipline, self-understanding, realization. Am I deviating from the real objective of my life at this point in time? Who is more important for me? What is my priority at this point in time? Can I catch back the time I've lost once it's gone? Once this time is gone, your child has passed 2 or 3 more years of their uh, crucial early developmental years. As a parent, if I'm not devoting enough time, will I be able to do anything about this time lost? That time bond building time, as well as learning time that my child has lost, because either he was too much on the virtual world, or I was too much on the virtual world. So we really need to check our reality. Nobody else from outside is going to check that. We are going to check that ourselves by really assigning time for everything. Everything is important, but it's not the necessity. We should not make it as a necessity for ourselves. It's very important that our survival is not contingent upon that. That is something that we've made a habit. We have certain habits we develop, the habits which may be not so good for us, which may be hampering our very existence. So we really need to curb on that. We need to check on that, read more articles on something like this, when you are sitting on Google or devoting more time. Teenage children may also be encouraged to read more about. And I've seen some children are very sensitive about this entire issue once they hear that watching prolonged use of mobile phone for playing games and all is hampering their vision or their brains and things like that. They become sensitive. They start avoiding, they start reducing and cutting down on their times on their own, sometimes getting more information on how harmful it is. Generating one's own self-awareness for the child as well as for one's own self is something that's going to certainly work as a corrective measure. But nonetheless, ma'am, I would say that we should do more workshops to spread awareness about sensitizing about this entire issue. Is it really necessary, the amount of time we devote on Facebook, WhatsApp and all? 10 minutes, fine, good, very good. 15 minutes, very good, but sometimes 1 hour, 2 hours, we are there continuously. Then again, we are there. We are not sleeping, but we are online. That is not going to help anyway in the longer run. Connect more with the real world and real things. Oh, we have many more questions. Okay. So we have.
Ma'am, maybe we can take one last question.
Okay.
Yeah. Any one of your choice.
Okay. Ma'am, can we call the parents during tests, and sometimes their attitude is like that they have much more important work to do than these tests. They consider it very lightly. Feedback link. Okay, this seems to be almost in higher classes when students don't want to participate in activities in discussion. We keep on calling their names and they don't unmute themselves. Okay, I would not appreciate this gesture on the part of the children that they do not respond when the teacher is calling. I think that's a high time we need to check on ourselves as parents, and we need to discuss, we need to hold talks and workshops with students about these basic virtues. This we are really lacking, going behind in terms of morality, value system. So this is something that requires this aspect needs to be addressed rather than really expecting. We are really not working on, or the parents are not working on, the society as a whole is not working on the value system of a child. So that is a serious concern these days. I think we need to address that at a more higher or broader platform, because this will continue. This is what the habit the children have been developing. I hear from other people also. All they do not mean disrespect, but wherever they can shrug off, they will shrug off. That is something that's coming easy. And there is
add one more thing. Would like to add one more thing. Sorry for the interruption.
No, not at all.
If you remember the time when schools were facing a crisis, that fee were not coming. I mean, I'm using a public platform. I don't know whether it's very correct to say it or not, but I think sometimes it's very correct to say something for your own fraternity. There's no harm even if you're doing it on a public domain.
Absolutely.
I think the mindset, this problem, where the students don't want to take part in the activities and discussion, and parents not, getting involved or not getting bothered. I think it's a gross insensitivity to how much the teachers are working. I don't know. Somehow I feel that the attitude is that online mein padhai kya ho rahi hai? There is no padhai going on online. So people equate or the value of education only when a child gets up in the morning, walks down or rides a bicycle or boards a bus, reaches a school, is away from home. Not to forget, is away from home and is in a classroom and is coming back with a homework. Now with the online, homework is on, teaching is on, but the child is at home. So that thing is not really gone very well through whatever level efforts should have been there. That teachers are really working very hard, and this crisis even of paying the fee, it's at all levels. People, even if you have a new set of admissions now going on in schools and higher education institutions, a justification of paying a fee for an online class is not well understood, I think, or not well taken by the parents. I mean, we are all parents. We also pay for our children's education. But I think it's our responsibility when we also step out of our house or whatever jobs we are at, whether we are entrepreneurs or in the corporate or into teaching or whatever. uh, I see it even in my house. Initially, children taking online classes very lightly, but then it's our personal effort to tell them that, if the person on the other end is teaching with so much of labor and effort, at least you should be engaged. You should sit up. You shouldn't be lying down or sleeping or keeping yourselves muted or the video stopped. I mean, at least this basic respect, I think, has to be taught. This is something very, very flat that I'm saying, but
Exactly.
this is
Very
where
true.
this is the
We
best
need to teach.
contribution. Yeah.
The important thing is that I'm so sorry, ma'am, I'm cutting. The
No,
important
no.
thing is that when as you're saying, I also being a parent, I also tell my 10-year-old child when he's kind of doing another thing or not attending a class, I constantly tell him, see how much of hard work your teacher has been doing. She's made a PPT, she's made a presentation, she's made a quiz for you, and she's planned an activity for you. She's doing so many things. Now, only when we are on a virtual mode, we are able to see how much hard work the teacher puts in more closely, right? And at the same time, I would also talk about this plight thing that I have to face, that my younger one is in second grade, so I have to sit with him till 12 o'clock till his classes are done, because he may need assistance at any point in time, right? There may be links that teachers send for quizzes and things like that, so I have to open that for him. Ye post pe hoga, is pe hoga, us pe hoga. So I ensure myself more than him that I'm around. I do not give appointments to my clients till 12 o'clock, so before 1 o'clock I do not give appointments, I do not go. This is the change in my work style that I have adopted for me. I do not take any classes, any lectures, any presentations. Everything is done after 12 or after 2, something like that, when it is a feasible time. So everyone is adjusting to that. And as parents, the teachers are also adjusting and working on so much of that. So as parents, it is our responsibility to value that work, that hard work, and ensure in some way or the other, if it's possible for us, to be around, to encourage children, to facilitate their learning process if you're really serious about it. Of course, I'm not a perfect parent, I'm not able to do it in the best way. I sometimes I myself, I'm not able to be active with the child as much as it is required. Sometimes the child is not also in the mood, I will also say, "Chalo chodo, aaj chhod do." So but then, of course, as much as possible, we as parents, we have to take in the responsibility to be as a mentor around the child, to facilitate the child, and sensitize them about this entire very issue. How beautifully your teacher is teaching, how much of hard work she's done it. Oh, so beautiful that she's done for you. The teachers make beautiful diagrams, whatnot, videos, whatnot they are doing. It's amazing that they do. And I really wonder if anybody in any other profession is putting in so much of hard work, particularly during the lockdown, to deliver the services. So really, I think parents and students, grown up children particularly, need to take it seriously, need to take the entire process of learning very seriously, and need to value through this mode as the learning is happening. We really need to appreciate that. That is something we really need to look into.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. So, with your permission, I think we can hand over now the mic to Pratibha Garg, ma'am.
Sure, ma'am, sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Pratibha, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Really, it was such a sensitive issue, and an interesting session was going on, and we all are, as parents, as teachers, looking at everything from both point of view. But yes, definitely, as teachers, when we are working, we can understand that the students, like our children, where they are studying, we can understand how much efforts their teachers are taking. So very true, ma'am, that we as individuals has to understand the efforts, the kind of efforts the teachers are putting in. We should appreciate, because we know how much the teaching fraternity is doing. So, good evening, everyone. On behalf of our Institute of Education, Greater Noida, affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indus University, I feel honored and privileged to propose a vote of thanks to the esteemed guest of this session, Dr. Pratibha A. Singh, for enlightening us with such insightful and inquisitive thoughts on building parental involvement during COVID-19 crisis for holistic development of learners. Ma'am, your session was very enriching, and I'm sure all the participants were benefited with it. We could see the kind of interaction was going on, the kind of comments was coming in. It was really very interactive and very insightful. I would also like to thank Dr. Tanya Gupta, Principal AIE, for her constant support and guidance for the whole faculty development program. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all our esteemed participants connected with us from various places. I am really grateful to our technical support, Mr. Manoj Kumar, for all the efforts he is putting up to make this 1 week online faculty development program. Now, I request everyone to please rise for national anthem. Over to you, Manoj sir.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, Tanya,
Everyone.
and the participants for patient listening and for the fruitful discussion that we were together with.
Everything which begins comes to an end. Like this, our FDP is now also towards the end. So join us tomorrow for the last session of this 1 week faculty development program. At the same time, thank you once again, everyone. Jai Hind.